They were forced to tour around with much reduced cast and role, so they were kind of shorthanded. In 1593, Shakespeare wrote Venus and Adonis. This was his first real work, and it was written to Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton. And this was his first real work, and many people loved it, and this kind of gave his career the jump start that he needed.
From 1594 to 1599, Shakespeare was at the top of his game. He was making many plays that were doing very well in all the different acting companies. He was still a principal actor and manager in Chamberlain's Men, and he had a stable work environment for all the unstable world of theater. But he also had a lot of money coming his way, so he had a very prosperous life. And in 1599, he became part owner of the Globe, which was the theater of which most of his plays were produced.
Shakespeare's early works from mid-1594 can be divided into four essential groups. Classical plays. His first works were heavily influenced by a classical era of plays, such as the play Comedy of Errors. This was a heavily influenced classical play. This was a crude work compared with Shakespeare's later work in the classical plays, but it was better than most plays being performed at that time. The history plays. Shakespeare took the rough materials he found in early plays, and he used them to invent almost a new genre called history plays. His early works in this genre was the Henry IV plays. The narrative poems and sonnets were another type of play. They were both dedicated to Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton. It is also extremely probable that Southampton is the young man of the sonnets, though this is not known for sure. Shakespeare also liked to experiment in comedy, where he wrote some plays such as The Taming of the Shrew, which was based on the Italian play Two Gentlemen of Verona. The more mature comedy plays such as Love's Labour's Lost, they all belong to this period of play. Indeed, cut.
Many feel the view expressed in the romances was the mature Shakespeare's view. He had been living long enough through tragedy and resurrection. Others say that he was a great playwright, just following the fashion and presenting the most popular sort of plays for years, just in his own words. After a while, there were two major venues of the time. Elements were now being brought to the public stage. The fact that the players were at now the two venues, the Globe, which continued regularly until 1613, when it was burned down, and the Blackfriars. More was charged for the admission to the Blackfriars than the Globe. The plays of the Globe were less frequent from 1603 to 1610. All these factors may have gone into turning Shakespeare to romance plots from his tragedy and resurrections. Many have expressed the opinion that Shakespeare left the stage around 1611 after The Tempest and returned to Stratford, where he wrote his will. This may be true, but it's worth noting that in 1612, Shakespeare purchased Blackfriars Gatehouse in London. On the other hand, it might have only just been another investment.
Shakespeare's health was rapidly declining. His son-in-law was a medical doctor, Dr. Hall, and he attended him, but the nature of his final illness was unknown, and it was sadly untreatable. A legend has grown up that he died because he drank too much. Shakespeare and Ben Jonson had a merry meeting and drank too much, and so he might have died of alcohol poisoning, but that was 50 years after he died, and it came up in a diary, so we don't know if it's true, in fact. Shakespeare's will, whatever the cause of his death, well, we find that he kept calling for revisions to his will from 1616 on. The marriage of his daughter Judith to the unliked Thomas Quincy made them need to amend the will. This will, said G.E. Bentley, it was a characteristic will of a man of property in the reign of James I, meaning it was a very typical will. He left £100 to his daughter Judith for marriage portion, and another 50 if she renounced any claim in the Chapel Lane cottage near New Place. He left £30 to his sister Joan Hart. He left $10 to the poor of Stratford, and he left a sword and various small bequests to. He left a sword and various small trinkets to local friends, and other acquaintances. He does not mention his wife Anne, but as common in English days, she would have gotten 1/3 of everything. All the rest of his goods would go to his son-in-law John Hall and his daughter Susanna.